Although there's a lot of topics that are dominating the news over the past few weeks, topics of war and reproductive rights and everything, we cannot forget that the climate crisis is not simply going away. You can't hit pause on it, even if people stop paying attention. We still need to do something. And so I wanna make sure that we check in and see what's being worked on, what challenges we face, and see what opportunities we might have before us. And we're very lucky to be joined on that topic by Environmental Justice Program Advisor, Kerri Evelyn Harris. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Glad to have you on. Look, I'm excited anytime I get to talk to someone who's actually working on these issues. So tell me a little bit about your work in the area of environmental justice, inequality, those sorts of topics.
Absolutely. I'm currently working with an organization called the Mid-Atlantic Justice Coalition. We are based in Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and DC. We are going to speak into statehood. And so we consider them one of our 4 states that we're currently working in. And we live at the intersection of economic and environmental justice. You can go to the most impacted communities and you can talk about environmental justice, and often it falls on deaf ears, not because they don't care, but because unfortunately they've been born and raised in these communities that have factories and coal piles and intersections running through them. And so to them, it's normal. But what they do understand is economics. They understand that economics drives the fact that they don't have a lot of political power. They understand that economics drives the fact that there's crime in their communities, their children aren't educated to the same degree, that there aren't a lot of jobs that offer them opportunity to give their children a better future. So when we attack economic justice, and at the same time environmental justice, we create a stronger and more forward-thinking community.
So you seem to be implying that dealing with our environmental problems is not just about like what we choose to do with straws and stuff, that it's deeper and more interconnected than that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we all need to recycle if recycling's your thing. But when we talk about frontline communities, they're just trying to make it to tomorrow, right? And yes, they'll recycle, but we have to give them more hope. There's mold in their walls that nobody cares about, and they don't have the funding to get rid of. There's factories literally pumping toxins into the air. They step outside of their houses and go to take a deep breath, and it doesn't feel good, it doesn't smell good, it doesn't look good, but we've normalized disaster and hazards and health concerns. And so environmental justice and climate justice really means making sure that people's basic needs are met and making sure that there's economic opportunities that don't make you sacrifice long-term health and well-being for short-term gains. And it just really puts the onus on businesses to say, we want to be good neighbors. Nobody's saying that tomorrow everybody has to become a vegetarian. Nobody's saying tomorrow that, we're going to stop using product X or product Y. But what we are saying is that if you are an industry, we require of you to make sure that your community that you are serving, as well as the community that you're producing in, is doing well. And that nobody is sacrificing their family's health and well-being for a paycheck. And that the community at large isn't willing to say, we can sacrifice that community so that we can do better. The truth is about these hazards, you can't build a wall tall enough. You can't dig a moat deep enough to escape it. So well-to-do communities are in just as much danger as communities that are often dismissed. And so we want to build a bridge. And the truth is, at this intersection of economic and environmental justice, it shuts out the idea of the DNC and the GOP and just brings community members together. What we love about the Mid-Atlantic Justice Coalition is we have Republicans and Democrats, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, sitting together. We have those with a lot of economic means and those with hardly any. People with criminal backgrounds and people who think that people with criminal backgrounds are just deviants and will never have a chance for another tomorrow, seeing each other as one, learning each other's stories and figuring out their way forward together. And so we're excited about that.
Okay, some of the way that you've talked about these interconnected issues, I feel like there's been a lot more focus on communicating that way over the past few years. To what extent do you think that like new focus has gotten through to either regular people or to policymakers? And if that's not the way, what do you think are some things that could be done to get people to see these issues in the way that you're talking about?
I think it's really getting through to people, for sure, because they are hearing what we have to say. Again, they know that things just aren't how they used to be, and not in a creepy, let's go back to the way things used to be, when the way things used to be didn't really work for folks. But what they do know is that our families are getting sick and we can't explain why. And while there are genetic components to the rate that at which people are getting cancer, asthma, neurological disorders, it can't be genetic. Statistically, it's not a genetic issue. It's environmental. We are seeing people concerned about flooding. In Delaware specifically, there is no place in Delaware more than 8 miles from some body of water, a river, a creek, the bay. Flooding is happening. We're the lowest lying state in the union. When we go to Virginia, another sister state in the union, there's flooding all the time. There are concerns about, fires in other parts of the country. We're seeing the idea that well water is being contaminated at rates that are causing great alarm to people, and they don't have the funding to fix it. They're creating an atmosphere. There's a creation of an atmosphere where people are afraid to even find out the truth because they know at the other end, there's this impact that of our economics that forces us to choose between just pretending like well enough is good enough and the reality that we're slowly going to kill ourselves. And so as we're coming together, as community members start to put aside their differences and work towards a common goal, our elected officials are going to have to hear us. They aren't going to be able to say, oh, they'll simmer down or they'll find issues with each other and leave us alone. The Green Amendment is another piece that we're working on. And that again is bringing people together. Fresh air, clean water, a safe environment just makes sense to people.
And this really fast. So the Green Amendment, is this a proposal for a constitutional amendment around these concerns?
Correct. Currently, the state of Delaware is picking it up. There was some traction in Maryland. It's already passed in Pennsylvania, New York, and Minnesota. People care about these things. And what it does is it requires the government to make sure that they're enforcing regulations that are already on the books. This is something that a lot of people complain about. Why even make a law if you're not going to make sure people are paying attention? We all know that self-regulation for industry isn't a real thing. We all know that we are seeing our changes happening. And so Green Amendment is an important piece. Working together to create economic and environmental justice is important. And what we've come up with as a coalition, we're calling a new program. It's an initiative called MAJC Now. So it's a play off of our coalition name, Mid-Atlantic Justice Coalition. MAJC is what we call ourselves. People are losing hope, right? Not to sound cliche, but it's real. Biden ran on all of these ideas of hope, knowing that he didn't have the ability to whip the votes necessary to make it happen, nor the political will across even the Democratic lines to make it happen.
Do you feel that he's, like, considering that he was gonna go in, he was gonna face a lot of opposition, do you feel like he's really given it his best to try to get through on some of these issues? Because a lot of what you're talking about, like positions of factories, the how certain communities are clustered around highways and everything, these are questions at the end of the day of infrastructure, really. So do you feel like he did enough to try to get the funding for some of the things you're talking about? And of what was eventually passed, do you see any bright spots there?
Well, there are definitely bright spots. So here's the thing. We passed a massive spending bill. The problem is not Biden, not any other president, Republican or Democrat, is the single cause of this, but we have a failure in our country to go from an idea to implementation. So now we have this spending bill. There's all this money still sitting on the table, even from ARPA, let alone the Infrastructure Act, and even other spending bills that have come forth or initiatives. What we need to do is make sure that funding comes to our communities that need it the most. You're not going to get people finding hope, injecting hope back into their lives until they see tangible opportunity. The fact that this $1 trillion spending bill translates to something that impacts me personally, my family, or my community. There's the possibility there with the Infrastructure Act. There was possibility there with ARPA, and there's still money on the table. But if we don't make sure that municipalities are receiving this funding, it's for naught. And it leads to this conversation that we're seeing in Congress now about should we ever have a spending bill this large if the money just isn't used. So what we're hoping with the MAJC Now initiative is to work with municipalities, those that are often left out of funding equations, and making sure that their grant writers know how to search for federal funding that can go directly to them, and or lobby their own state to make sure that municipalities that often aren't politically expedient to officials are considered when it comes to improving their communities. What we're hoping is that we now have the ability of our community members to see how government works, but also see that there is an opportunity there with federal funding. It also helps our officials look at the community members as resources. Our community members are the ones who are teaching our officials how to bring this money home. Mm-hmm. So they create a dynamic where they're working together instead of seeing each other as us versus them. We're really hoping that it will change our environment and allow us to work forward and create systemic change that allows us to create a stable economy and eventually use that as a step forward to creating a more stable climate.
Well, I know that you want a lot of people to be involved in this. You don't see it as just being a top-down sort of thing. So if somebody's watching this and they want to get involved in these sorts of efforts, maybe they live in one of the states that the organization operates in, maybe not. What would your advice be to them on how they could become a part of this?
Absolutely. Simply go to midatlanticjustice.org. Sign up for the newsletter, reach out to us if you want to join immediately. We're constantly canvassing, phone banking, working on this initiative with MAJC Now throughout the region, and we would love for you to be a part of it. Even if you just want more information so you can share it out with people. We need everyone to be a part of this so that we can move this forward and create a stronger community for all of us.
Awesome, laudable goal. Kerri, Evelyn Harris, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.